Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, next level painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days. Coming to you from the Beats Lab in Hollywood, California. We're doing it again with a renegade champion with that sweet power fist. This dude was a part of my childhood growing up. I'm so glad to get him back in the Beats Lab for a Commissions Painter's Guide to Success edition. So here it is, guys. He's prime black. Now what I'm going to go over is more like the technique and the colors we use, how I would approach a commission. You got to realize the next level painting system was built in the trenches of commission work. It is a system devoted to quantity and quality. The first step is always with the airbrush. You got to develop strong base coats. Imagine I have 10 or so of these guys. They're all going to get painted blue right now. We're chasing this Alpha Legion color scheme, which you actually can look back on several other videos we've done where I go over in more express detail on how we got these colors to look the way they look. Okay, step one, let's get the base coats locked in, okay? Always do a second pass. What I'd like to do is thin it down just a little bit more. We get all those blues and all those dudes, and then we go in with some light passes, make sure we sling this blue into all the crevices to make sure it is totally locked in, looking its best. We are working in an assembly line here, a fictional assembly line here, okay? Make it look sharp, make it clean. All right. Mix your colors and be brave. That's one of the first lessons I learned in the trenches of commission painting. You don't always have the right color for the right job, but you can almost mix any two colors together. So here we're mixing in a little bit of green to get that color shift that we're looking for. We're trying to be creative, innovative. So once we get that new color, that new minty color, that kind of more of that Alpha Legion style, we're going to just create some exciting transitions. Transitions are the name of the game, guys. Exciting airbrushing work with some clean details and washes is how you put those projects out into the market, how you get paid. Once we're happy with this, we're going to create nice subtle transitions. We will, of course, revisit it and pop them out even further. But here, next level painting, we always like to marry colors together before we find that final highlight color. Right now, green is mixed in with the blue, so you could assume that we're going to go in with a straight green. Now here it is. We're going to mix that green up. This will be the actual punchy highlight. Okay. Obviously, you guys already know we're using products like Vallejo Flow Improver. We're using Awada Eclipse. This is probably Necrotite Green. But here it is. Take it to 11. Nothing can go wrong. I promise. Always take it to 11 when you try to put that project out the door. So now we're going to pop these green highlights in to everything we just did. We're not going to undo the highlights. We're just going to add to them. Make them look very interesting. Even if it doesn't make sense. Even if the lighting doesn't make sense. Make it interesting. Make it clean. Make it sharp. You don't want any speckling in your transitions. That's why we marry the colors together and we use Flow Improver. Now it's starting to look more color shifty, more Alpha Legion-y, kind of modeled after a scarab beetle. But hey, I said 11. So we're going to mix some yellow into the pot. Now, obviously, it's probably Flash Against Yellow, one of my favorite colors of all time. Now we're actually going to make it 11. I thought it was 11 before, but hey, this is a science. Now we're going to pop out those highlights with a little bit of this yellow, make them look extreme. Even if it looks too crazy to you, I promise you it's not too crazy. Once we lock everything in, you have a few avenues to subdue it if you feel like 11 is too high and you need to take it down to 10. Washes come to mind. All right, piling on the yellow, making it look ridiculous. Like I said, it might look a little aggressive right now, but it will lock in. You just got to have faith in the system. This system has never failed me. All right, now start visualizing what you're going to do with the details. It is Alpha Legion, so I've done a little bit of research. I've also painted a few Alpha Legion models. Remember to always do your research, figure out what the client wants, and if they say, hey, it's up to you, Google. I learned that a lot of being an adult is using Google. All right, sometimes we have to go back. Now, airbrushing is not a linear process. It's not one direction. We're going to go back to blue, a little bit of a brighter blue actually, okay? And we're going to just feather this into some of those dark blues to create a little bit more of a fancy transition. I always go back and forth with my colors. If you just say dark to light, you're missing out on half the effects because sometimes, you know, like green over blue looks different than blue over green. So sometimes you got to do both. Fire, always go back and forth with the flame effects. So we're going back to this light blue, trying to make some of these darker areas have their own gleaming effect. It's starting to look really interesting, starting to pop, getting more of those Alpha Legion cool blues mixed in with those color shift greens, that chameleon coat chasing somewhat of a non-metallic metallic style of effect because I don't like painting with metallic paints. All right, sometime later. So that was day 1, guys. Now we're in day 2. Time to do the details and the trim. We're gonna lock all these out. We're gonna have the 10 or so models lined up. We're gonna pull out the approved silver, whichever one we wanna use, and we're gonna just start locking in that trim. We're gonna put our audio book on. We're just gonna chill, and we're gonna bang it out. Get it all knocked out, however long it takes. Now, when I first started commission painting, I could say something like, these 30 guys, we're gonna do all the trim today, right? Now I can do more than that. As you practice, the faster you go, the more precise your hand is, the less you mess up. It's very imperative that you don't fuck this up and get out of the lines. You are tracing, doing your best. All right, we're locking in more details. His sweet power claw. We mixed up a quick little black red effect. We're doing all of the chaos style pipes. We're using some purple. Of course, we got to use the iconic color palette of Next Level Painting here. We're gonna lock in those horns with just a basic brown laying on the desk. All right. A few days later, we'll get back to work, okay? Sometimes you got to take a break in between projects because you have multiple projects on the table. Here it is. All the details are locked in, they're good and dry, but realistically, you could have just waited an hour. Now it's time to lock in some washes. You might be able to tell from the background that I might have had a live stream in the middle of filming this. So we're going to start locking in those details. We're mixing in some random whites into those horns, trying to create contrast. Contrast is the name of the game, especially in the commission world. People don't want their models looking all muted and matted. A paying customer wants something that pops. So now we're just going to build it up, add more and more white in it, just using our glaze techniques. I'm not here to teach you how to use a paintbrush, how to use an airbrush. I'm showing you my system. This is what we developed in the trenches, as I said. All right, looking good. Let's do a second pass on the claws. We're going to glaze in a little bit of that red over the black red we mixed, just so we can get that nice OG 90s style to this Renegade Fist, one of my favorite models of all time. Build it up, keep the paint thin. It is a glazing technique. If you need to know more about glazing, we have done many videos. They are in the archives. Building it up, adding more and more scarlet red, maybe even a little bit of orange to the tips, just lightly glazing it. Real easy. Glazing is the best tool of the commission painter. Here we go. Time to wash it. Of course, I'm using the Army Painter quick shade system. This is probably dark tone. And now we're going to cleanly wash all the metal. This is the shortcut, okay? It's very important that when you're washing the trim, that you get a little bit of the wash in between the trim and the armor panel. So that it creates a nice border, a nice strong line, comic book line. It's all about contrast, creating those shadows, doing our best. With a good wash and good clean details, you can cut a serious step out of the process. Now look at that. Look at how much detail we just created with just a quick wash. Looking good. Now I would have done all this in the same day too. I would have said, hey, we're doing everything. Edge highlighting. Let's do this too. Now when you start, you might not have to edge highlight. If you look at this guy, you could almost say that that is commission worthy. But I do strongly recommend that you guys challenge yourselves to drop in some edge highlights. I started on a project where I had 100 Space Marines, and I said at the end of this, every single one of these Space Marines is going to have their shoulder pad, the 90-degree angle of their shoulder pad is going to be highlighted. After that, it was so fast, so second nature, I was able to do it standard, that I just kept challenging myself, and now I do it every chance I get. So here we're using a little bit of yellow. We're just going to trace some of the inner framework of some of the armor panels out to create another comic book line. It doesn't have to do anything with light. Just create a nice, interesting, straight line in between the wash and the metal trim. Find anything that's highlightable. Sometimes I like to, explicitly highlight the dark edges of things. Makes it look more reflective. Sometimes I do the bright. Sometimes I don't care. As long as you have these clean lines and they're in the right place, they make the model look that much more interesting. They make the armor panels look a little bit more real, maybe a little beveled. Now that you have that shadow right up against that highlight, you see right there, makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional. It's actually the same exact formula we use for doing our three-dimensional scratches. If you have a shadow and then right under the shadow is a highlight, it makes it look like it divots there, like it's beveled. Same thing with any of these Baroque arrows. Trace them out, make them look their best. This will become second nature to you. Once you do it enough times, probably within 2 or 3 projects, you just offer this service. You don't have to charge more for it. It is the new standard. So he's looking pretty good. Now let's highlight those tubes, everything you can get away with. We're gonna just take a random pink. We're We're going to just drop a couple of lines in to highlight those tubes. Notice we're not dry brushing it. We're just drawing the lines in. Dry brushing, try to get away from it. Dry brushing makes things look dusty. It makes things look out of place, with the exception of a few elements like maybe like cloaks and furs. Try to just stay away from it for models. Okay, now what we're going to do is introduce a little bit of purple wash and just pan wash back in those recesses in the hose. Because remember I said contrast is the name of the game. You're going to get a lot out of a little bit of work here. Look at how much better those hoses look with a little bit of wash dragged inside of those recesses. Suddenly, it's a focal point of the model, making them look his best. Boom. Hit every detail. If there was another piece of advice I can give you, don't forget every detail. All right, bases are easy. This is super important. Bases can make or break models. Make sure you do at least something on the bases. Now, lots of companies offer resin bases. Some of my sponsors, Secret World Miniatures, Elrik's Hobbies. Right now, I'm going to show you how to make a quick base out of the GW Black Blink. God, that's a hard series of words to say. We're using Vallejo pumice, okay? This is the textured acrylic paint. It is the dark earth texture. We're going to get that on the base, and then we're going to grab our Gale Force 9 barbed wire, clip off some. While that is drying, you can do all of your guys real quick. And while that's drying, pull out a bunch of this barbed wire, twist it around a paintbrush real quick, make a bunch of barbed wire. Stay busy in the bead slab, be as efficient as possible. Now, once you have a bunch of barbed wire ready to go, all you got to do is slap a little bit more of this pumice down and then just jam that barbed wire, kind of beat it up a little bit and jam it right in that pumice so the pumice will glue it to the base. It's always good to add a little bit more inside of it, just so it looks like the dirt's, it's embedded in the dirt, like it's there. And also it's glue. Turns out pumice is also glue. So let that dry up for a little bit. While that's doing its thug dizzle, Elements Games makes lots of awesome flocking materials that I like to use. So I'm going to put a little bit more wet pumice on the base. And like I said, we're doing all this in waves, assembly line. We're going to move some of these rocks in around the barbed wire just to make it look a little bit more interesting. Create a little bit more texture in the base. You can literally get 40 of these guys done with this exact basing scheme in a couple hours, as long as you stay efficient and you line up the project. You want to do more than just gravel and grass. You want to give them something. So now that we got all those rocks looking their best, we can keep moving. Okay. Love it. Element Games, big shout out. Okay, let it dry. This is super important. Okay, now that you've got them all laid out, make sure they're all dry. Take a 45-minute breather. And now we're going to use some wash. We're just going to squirt on some Army Painter Dark Tone. Literally, that's as easy as it is. Squirt them on all the bases. Grab a brush, grab a little water or a little flow improver, a little medium, it doesn't matter. Squirt it all on the bases. Grab your brush, start pushing it around. Let this wash get thin as it needs to get. In some areas, let it be thick. Be organic with it. Let it have a variance so it's not all just uniform. See, we're going to let it get inside those rocks. We're going to actually wash it up on the metal barbed wire. We're not going to just leave the barbed wire shiny metal. We're going to make sure the wash stains it a little bit. We're going to push the wash around his feet. We're going to feather it into some other parts of the base, add a little bit more liquid if we need to. We're going to move pretty fast here. Once you get your stride, you can move quick. And there it is, solid. Still missing a couple of things, but that's a good start. Within a few minutes, you can have so many of these guys done to this level. All right, here it is. Always paint the rims of your bases black. Always try to convince your client for this. Trust me, it just looks better. So we're going to paint the rim of the base black while the base is drying. Always stay busy in the bead slab. Go down your assembly line, hit all the guys up with this technique. It definitely just sharpens the model, I promise. All right, now we're going to add some flocking to it. Some grass. Gamer's Grass offers some of the best tufts of grass in the game today. I mean, I love the tan grass, probably my favorite. So we're going to grab a little tuft of tan grass. Now these are self-adhesive, but I do use a little super glue just to keep them on the base. So I'll pull a little super glue out, shove it in the back of the base because he's got nothing going on back there. Put it right there. Don't overdo it with these tufts. Just put one piece. All right, chaos it up. One last thing. Now that all that's dried up, you can take a little bit of orange, probably Troll Slayer orange or any other bright orange, water it down, kind of like a wash, and just add it to some of the metallic details. This is one final little technical effect that won't take you but 10 minutes to do on all your dudes. Gives them that last little piece of technical love to really make your client happy. Chaos it up. Now, not everything gets chaosed up, but hey, I work on a lot of chaos models here in the Beats Lab. And you see how good a quick little thin wash of rusty color looks on all of those metals. He's looking his absolute best. Let's give him one more layer of realism here. That is a Pop Goes the Monkey combi flamer right there that I used on him. I figured that this dude needed a suitably badass weapon, not the little tiny pistol. Looking solid. I mean, even on the nexus of his shoulder, it looks amazing. That simple, guys. Here it is. Commission Painting Guide to Success. This is the first video of its kind that we've ever done. Let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this. Play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.